7 o'clock. All right, we can go ahead and get the meeting, call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock. We will start with roll call. Melissa, here. Jill, here. Michelle is here. Lloyd.
Here.
Ben.
Here.
We got Dale down there, and Tom, Mark, and Justin. We can get everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we have 2 open forums tonight, so we're going to go ahead and start with that. And the first is going to be Nick.
So I just go over here, or?
So if you come up here and then state your name, address.
My name is Nick Krachowski. I live on 842 Aspen Lane. James Nick Krachowski, actually. The reason why I wanted to call an open forum was I had kind of been exploring an opportunity to drive a community initiative to expand our internet options, our internet service providing options. In that kind of exploration, I had found Kyle had actually responded from Extra Time Communications out of Dassel, a local business. They provide an internet service that competes with the large internet service providers around the area, around the Minneapolis area. And they particularly specialize in rural developments, providing high-speed communications at a cost-effective, it doesn't require a significant amount of infrastructure. So I'll introduce Kyle and let him speak, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Good evening, folks. I'm Kyle Ackerman. I own a small company called Extra Time Technologies. We've actually been around 19 years. I'm your friendly neighbor to the West Dassel, Minnesota. And I've also been the president of the EDA in town, so I'm very passionate about small town growth and providing services to small towns that people don't think we should have. So I was very intrigued. First of all, to introduce my team. My wife, Sherry, she's the real owner of our company. And then Eugene, my network engineer on the end there. But I became passionate when I saw him talking about a community effort, because that's about all the places that we've gone have been kind of community-based. The community wants us to come. We provide a solution. And one of the tricky parts here is that you guys already have fairly good options. You have, I think Nick can get 250 down, fairly good service. But one of the things that I had pointed out in the forum when I was talking about there, it always helps a community when you have more options. We were talking about restaurants, right? It's always good to have more than one restaurant, especially in the millennial world. It's good to have more choices. Choices and competition brings up quality and lowers price. It works, it really does. The city of Annandale went through it. I don't know if you guys paid attention to what was going on up there. They had one. We were the second one in there, and now Midco's there. So they're doing really well. They have a lot of choices. Okay. So what I suggested to Nick we could do here is we don't want any money for this. I don't believe in that. The only reason I'm here is I'm like a new business wanting to come to your town, and I'm just I want to tell you what I'm planning, what we'd like to do, and just see what you think of it. Let us know if it's a good opportunity for us to come here. Our network does go all the way from St. Cloud through Dassel, through Hutchinson, all the way over to the Chask area and down to Belle Plaine. So it's fairly large. You're just right on that edge of it. Okay, so it'd be real easy for us just to come this way a little bit. It's something we've been exploring for years, and I think the time is right now. But what I told Nick and Melinda is that I really want it to be a community effort. I want to do something. If we do it here, I want it to feel like it's coming from within. I don't want to just come here and say, here we're a company, we're parking here, please buy our services. We want a little passion here, a little excitement. And when you get that, it's really fun to watch it. It's like the new restaurant that's opening, and everybody wants to go to it and help them. So I don't want to get into any nuts and bolts or anything like that, but I do want to basically say that we told Nick that we can bring him 200 to 250 megabit down, and the thing that was important to him was the uploading. You do some server work, and in our world today, we're all carrying these phones around that are recording 4K video right now. We're going to have to push that somewhere to the cloud and send it somewhere. And so a lot of the internet providers don't do the uploads that we do. Okay? One of the other very unique things, and then I'll stop talking here, is that we allow our users to choose what they want on a daily basis. If you're on vacation for a week, turn it down to the $14.95 level, and you come back and you got an event at your house, you turn it back up to the, the 200 megabit level. And we know that we got to be competitive, and we will be. And the thing that I guess excited Nick a lot was we have something we call small town customer service. We have a couple customers that call us over. We talk to them on the phone. We have a 91-year-old lady, and she calls us up every once in a while. I don't really want to do it on the phone, but if you come by, could one of your guys stop by here? I think she wants us to haul salt downstairs into her water softener. So, those are the kind of things we do. We have a relationship like this with our customers. And we're all from the area. We don't send any tech support out. If you talk to somebody on the phone, they can come over to your house if you wanted. And we do that regularly. So that's what I'm saying. I guess we're excited to explore this opportunity. And if your community wants it and would like to explore this more, Nick is my anchor man here, and Melinda. Melinda lives, you guys know Melinda Toms? She lives northeast of here about, 3 miles?
Marysville.
Yeah, and Nick lives on the north side about a mile that way. Okay. And then finally, the last thing, if we decide to do this, or if you decide you want us to come here, we would be interested in renting your water tower space, if that was an option. Makes it happen really fast, brings some income to town, and hopefully, I hate to say this, but hopefully we raise your property values a little bit. The citizens don't like that because their taxes go up. But it is, out in our area, if you go to sell your house and you don't have it internet ready, it does hurt the value of the house. So, any questions from me? If not, thank you so much for letting us come here today.
Thank you very much.
All right, Rebecca?
Hello, I am Rebecca Russell, here on behalf of the Bank of Maple Plain in regards to a water pipe burst that we had at our bank-owned property on, I believe, January 17th. I would like to first and foremost thank the city workers for their prompt and very quick response to the event. They called us and let us know that the usage was very high, and the city workers were out there before we could get there. We're about 30 minutes away, so they were out there and working by the time we got there. So thank you for that, we really appreciate it. Secondly, I would like to request relief from the charges due for sewer and wastewater treatment. The water flowed down the stairs into the sump pump system and outside, so it did not run through the sewer system. Oh, yeah.
Did you guys get to see this? Can I pass that down? Oh, the bill was $518.
I have additional copies if you'd like.
You're looking at us to reduce the sewer?
The sewer and the wastewater treatment fees.
So that's removing $1,034.55 from the bill.
$1,034.55?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll check.
So I'm taking this as a vacant property right now?
Currently it is.
This is the property across the street, I believe, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Any discussion? Opinions?
What do we normally do in a situation like this? One time I know we used to adjust it. Lately here, no, I don't think we do, do we?
We haven't had any like this situation. We've had some high water usage, but it hasn't it's gone down through the sewer, so that's why we didn't forgive the sewer and wastewater, because it went through the sewer. We haven't had any where it's gone down the steps out the door, so.
Yeah.
There is not a drain, there's not a floor drain in the residence, so.
Some of them in the past, we've taken the average, subtracted that out of the bill, and then split like the difference with the homeowner.
We don't have that information on hand, do we?
We don't have anything in writing, no, it's all been on a case-by-case basis, so.
Right, but we
Just
don't-
remember, some of, part of that will also be the base charges, so you don't want to, they still would have to pay the base charges, so you wouldn't subtract the entire amount.
I mean, like, in the summertime, if people put that additional meter on, like, to water their lawn, if they then are charged that additional
Correct, we don't
sewer
charge water and sewer, correct.
And this is kind of a similar situation where they're just unfortunately can't meter out how much water is running out of the door.
Yeah, out of the-
I don't
They
think
can
they
make
make
it
light.
It was pretty intense, I wasn't there, but I hear it was a sight to see.
Where was the break right near the house?
It was in the bathroom wall.
In the
like
bathroom
behind
wall.
the sink, I believe.
So I wonder what caused it. I mean, it wouldn't be a city problem that caused it.
No, it's probably no.
We've since
It's
had
regrettable.
people out to rectify the situation.
Yeah.
I mean, given the situation and the fact that the water didn't go in through the sewer, I would be in agreement to remove those charges less the base fees that are charged, that we can't.
I would be in agreement with that.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Wonderful. Thank you
Lloyd?
guys very much.
Well, you okay?
Yeah, I guess so.
Do
We need a motion then to do that?
Yeah, well, I need a motion.
Yep.
We've got a motion and a second, basically.
Okay.
That was my motion.
Yeah.
Good job. And Ben was a second, so Melissa. Aye. Jill.
Aye.
I'll vote aye, Lloyd.
I guess I'll vote aye, yeah.
And Ben.
Aye.
Thank you all
Motion
very
passes
much.
5-0. All right. Approval of the agenda.
Can I add on, under the Management Coordinating Committee, H 2018-08, I want to have some discussion regarding council on that, for lack of words, to get it on.
But it's already on.
Management Coordinating Committee.
Oh, you want us to take it out of there so we can have a discussion?
I want to have a discussion regarding council seats on that.
Yeah, so we just remove that out of the thing and put it under another. So it don't get approved by the judge.
No, she's adding.
It's not part of the consent agenda.
No, we're on approval of the agenda first.
Yes.
Yes. So you just want to add 2018-08.
Yes.
Okay, under H.
Thanks, Michelle. And then do we need to add anything?
Well, Tom, when Maggie decided to move on, we had to accept her resignation, correct?
Yes.
Do we need to do that also with Sean?
Yeah, procedurally, you should just accept his resignation, just for formality, even though clearly
He's right. Yeah, okay, so can we just then add that under also along with Melissa's? Okay. All right. Anything else? Is there a motion then to approve the agenda?
I'll approve it,
As amended, right?
yes.
Okay.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 5-0. Approval of the consent agenda. Is there any discussion?
I have none.
I was going to question Bolton and Mink charges. Did we get an itemized statement from this thing?
You would have to, Wendy gets one every month, but for us to see it, you would have to ask Wendy for it.
Pardon me, I asked and didn't get a reply, other than having to go through Wendy.
I will send it. I didn't have time today, I had auditors all day.
Okay.
You said you sent it?
I will send it. I didn't have time today, I had auditors in the office all day.
Did you have
We're off
questions?
Friday.
Well, I just was wondering why it was so high, $5,000.
Justin's right down there. Justin?
What's the question?
Yeah, the $5,000 charge there for engineering service.
I got a copy of all the invoices here. There are a variety of different projects that we've been working on. Garfield Avenue project, the surveyor go out to do record drawings for that. And we completed record drawings, planned record drawings. We had some time spent on Carpenter Contractors water main inspection and testing. That's billed back to Carpenter Contractors. Some grading circuit reviews out at Whitetail Ridge. Working with the developer on Preserve of Montrose and some wetland questions that they had. Modifying a couple figures for the DNR grant application for the regional park. Working on, had a meeting with MnDOT on the Highway 12 streetscape improvement project. That was discussed a couple meetings ago. And some other work with that. The well number 6 and well house number 3 project. And Whitetail Ridge, some meetings with developers regarding some proposed replats of their twin home areas. And punch list completion out there. I think that's the majority of it.
So then anything for the preserve will get tacked on to the
Preserve will get paid back when we sell the land. Whitetail Ridge and Carpentry Contractors, all of those projects get billed back to the developer.
And we'll see that on the accounts payable, because she usually has an asterisk on the stuff that we get back. Yep.
Pardon me, was that itemization just given, has that already been in that descriptive list, already been in the hands of the city for a few weeks or whatever?
The itemized list goes to the city, which is Wendy, to pay for accounts payable, yes.
I'm asking, the itemization that the city engineer just went through, was that same description on you've had the bill for some time, right?
Correct. And it is itemized, yes.
Exactly like he
Yes.
had it?
Yep. Anything else? Any questions on the budget? Motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second that motion.
Ben?
Aye.
Lloyd?
Aye.
Jill?
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Melissa? Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Do we have to do a separate resolution though, or is that all in there? That's fine. Okay. Meetings, the council. Sorry. Hi.
Hello. Deputy Hermanson again. You got your monthly report. Was there anything that you guys needed to discuss or talk about?
Had a busy month.
Not too busy. Picked up the traffic stops from 33 to 84, so
Is that off of Clementa now?
some of it.
Okay.
We've been trying to rally the troops to operate kind of the same way and get some consistency. I did some quick work out on Clementa as far as just to give you some, I guess, information. I wish I would have pulled up my email that I sent all the other deputies that work the area, but in timing, the distance, the difference between going 30 miles an hour and 45 miles an hour in those respective zones, there was a savings of approximately, off the top of my head, 30 seconds from Whitetail to the highway. And to put that into a better relationship to, how it relates to speed, the stopping distance at 30 miles an hour is like, I think it's 46 feet or something like that. Or it might be a little less than that, but if you go to 45 miles an hour, it's 97 feet. So you've more than doubled your stopping distance for not much gain in speed and time. So if that helps at all for any future thought of speed limits out there. And once we get warm again, we can start looking at, in regards to speed, bringing the speed trailer down from time to time. And the new one counts cars and gives statistics. I know last year I brought it down to Gillen Avenue, and so I can generate a report from the from it that there's a couple of different ways I can generate a report. So if you're looking for something specific, if I can know that, I can set it up for that ahead of time. But otherwise, everything's been pretty standard. We haven't had anything unusual. Any particular, we did have one kind of oddball last couple of days. It'll be on February's report. Some criminal damage to property. Fairly minor, but it was like Christmas lights, and we took one deputy took 3 reports, and I took one the next morning of some yard lights. It just seemed out of the ordinary for no particular reason. Absolutely no idea why it was going to happen in that area. There's nothing around there to hang around, so not quite sure. But if you guys don't have anything else, I don't have anything else.
Do we have another new deputy here in town?
Yes, you do. His name is Deputy Andy Fashion. He's been with the department 20 years. He's coming back. He's coming off a long stint as a detective, so you probably won't see him at meetings, but we've already been working on some issues.
He's very good. Excuse me, he's very good.
Yeah. Both Mr. Fashion and myself are former detectives, so we have a tendency to go a little further in calls. There's a little bit more follow-up and follow through on things, so you'll see that. Other than that, don't have anything else. Yes?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, meetings of the council.
I'll start. So since the last council meeting, I attended several staff meetings. I was at one of the game nights in January, probably, just a couple workshops, special meetings, 49ers meeting. Did not get to Montrose Days. Ben, I assume, will enlighten us on what was discussed. That was it. Oh, I attended bingo, sorry, bingo was bad, that was great. I didn't.
I can go. I didn't have a whole lot. I missed the last meeting because of the sick kid, and then I had surgery. So we did the finance review, and I think are on the Yellow Ribbon meeting, and I think
that is all I did. I did not make it to the beginning of the next whatever it was. It was fun.
I did council meetings, a workshop, planning and zoning, park and rec meeting, and negotiations for the 49ers.
And council, finance review, Beyond the Yellow Ribbon, Montrose Day celebration. We recapped the beanbag tournament. Went well. 15 teams were there. Yeah, great event. Got some new ideas, maybe trying to do a little bit more activities outside of having just the beanbags and the bingo, having some other things for people to do. So working on that, still looking for volunteers to help with Montrose Day celebration. We also discussed that we have coming up here on the 23rd and the 2nd our fish fries. Those are pre-sale tickets are available. City Hall, Montrose Family Chiropractic, and then you can reach out to myself. I have tickets available as well that we can get you set up with some pre-sale tickets. And then I think that's about all I intended.
Let's see, I went to planning and zoning. We met with Senator Anderson and Joe McDonald regarding some grant stuff. I didn't make skate day. Special council meetings, I went to a conference, a meeting with a group for the Veterans Memorial Wall, Union 49 negotiations. Council. Game night. I think that's all. I do a question though on meeting with the vets for the memorial wall discussion. They mentioned that they met with, did they meet with you guys?
They have talked to us about it.
And we've reached back to them for more information and have not received the more information. So that's something that we can, if you'd like to discuss that with us, you can come to our Beyond Yellow Ribbon meeting and discuss that with us.
Okay. All right. Okay. That's all I got. Kevin. Boy, I'm missing it all. We need to then take Melissa has decided she is resigning from council. Melissa, did you want to talk about that, or?
I can. I don't have the letter that I submitted, but I'm moving out of town, which is why I'm resigning. There's no other reason. I'm still going to continue to work in town. Ben is still going to continue to go to school in town. So we will be here at least 5 days a week. And I mean, we still plan on volunteering, as we can. I'm still going to be a Boy Scouts here, and other things like that. So just due to the limitations of having to live in city limits is what is forcing me to resign at the moment.
So then we need to make a motion to accept resolution 2018-06.
Make a motion to accept resolution 2018-06, resolution accepting the resignation of Melissa Goodlingen from city council and declaring a vacancy.
I'll second that.
Okay, Lloyd.
Aye.
I will vote aye. Jill. Aye. Ben.
Aye.
And Melissa. Can't vote, never mind. So it is 4-0 and 1. So then we need to discuss how to proceed moving ahead to appoint a position, how we want to advertise that. Should we advertise, posting? Go ahead.
Mayor, on council, my recommendation would be to put it on the city's website and this City of Montrose Facebook page, period. I don't know what gain you'd have from putting it in the newspaper other than cost, which is not a gain, it's a loss.
Right.
So I think that it's gone through the community that Melissa submitted her resignation. And so we've received any number of calls of interest on it, and I've had to tell them that we couldn't do anything official until the council accepted Melissa's resignation. So it'll be like release the hounds now.
And then I think at the special meeting, there was brief discussion about them just filling out the commission's application.
And then we typically interview.
And then,
Might I suggest a letter of interest, because at least we find out a little more about them.
A little bit of background.
Yeah, and it's kind of nice to know if your potential council member can string together a coherent sentence.
Yeah.
So,
So you can put that out then tomorrow, something?
yes.
Okay. We also have to officially accept Sean Dirks's resignation as well. Anybody want to make a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to accept his resignation.
I'll second. All right, Ben.
Aye.
Lloyd.
Aye.
I will vote aye. Jill.
Aye.
And Melissa? Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Okay, Kevin.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The first item is the January 2018 activity report. Kind of an interesting month for us. We were extremely busy. We had 30 calls for service in 31 days. Looking back in our history, I can go back as far as 2004. It's the most calls for service we've ever had in a month. So it's probably safe to say it's probably our busiest month ever since we've been around. So the guys did a lot of work. Not a lot of medical, as you can see with the special type calls on there. We did respond to 5 mutual aid calls to our mutual aid partners, 2 to Delano, 1 to Howard Lake, 1 to Rockford, and 1 to Waverly. So extremely busy month for us.
And they were long calls, like there was a lot of hours logged. It's not like it was a 45-minute call and then
No.
back home.
They were extremely long calls. Guys put in a lot of hours in January. So kudos to all the guys for putting in the extra effort for that month. We're glad that January's done. So. Also, just to make note the acknowledgements in my activity report, I'd just like to acknowledge Sean Dirks for his years of assistance and help with the fire department and emergency management during his tenure here. And then all the firefighters for their dedicated work throughout January 2018, busiest month in recorded history with 30 calls for service. The next item on the agenda, just a recap of our annual Firefighters Relief Association dinner, which was held on Saturday, February 3rd. So at this event, we usually do some awards and recognitions. This year, the 2017 Firefighter of the Year award was awarded to Willie Bauerschmidt. That award is selected by a committee of the firefighters. They take nominations, recommendations from whoever, and they select the person based on whatever criteria they deem appropriate for that award. We also recognize the 2017 top responders. We had 176 total calls for service in 2017. The top responders were Willie Bauerschmidt with 78.98%, Mike Marketon with 77.84%, Matt Menard with 75%, Joe Doyle with 64.77%, and myself with 61.93%. We've always made it kind of a tradition for the last several years to recognize those who respond to over 60% of the calls for service. So those guys put in extra effort and really make the trucks go out the doors sometimes. We also had badge pinning for 2 firefighters who completed their 2-year probation period, Joe Doyle and Stephen Schmoll. So they're no longer on probation with us. They're full-fledged firefighters and got their uniforms and badges and everything like that. So. And then we also recognized those who resigned or retired in 2017. Those who resigned were Scott Johnson, who served with us for 6 years, 3 months, Jeff Daniels, who served with us for 10 years, Ryan Lazenby, who served with us for 2 years, 11 months, and Tom Cortissus, who served with us for 5 years and 3 months. They were all given a shadow box with their helmet shield, their badge, a patch, their name tags, everything in it, so something that they can hang on the wall or something. We also had a recognition of a retirement. Bruce Triplett, my father, we recognized him for his 29 years of service. He started with the department in 1988 and served up until August of last year. So he got a special plaque with an axe on it and also that shadow box. We had a great turnout for the dinner, great participation in the silent auction for everybody who attended. Special thank you to all of the businesses and people that donated and supported the silent auction. And a special thank you to all who attended the dinner and took part in the silent auction and supported the Relief Association. Any questions? All right.
All right,
Thank you very much.
Crew.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I thought I was going to be quick, but I don't think it's going to be as quick as you guys. I'm not sure if you have minutes in your packet, if they were completed in time or not. So we'll just give you a quick recap. At our last meeting, we talked about upcoming town hall dates and topics, recapped skate day, some other upcoming events. Talked about some discussion, or had some discussion on the Northridge Park trails, so moving that along, and discussing updating the CIP. So we have requested data from Wendy and from Dale based on Sean's departure. So I'm sure they're working on that. I mean, Wendy's been busy with auditor and such, so I'm sure that's in its, not talk to me, I'm sure it's in the works. We are moving ahead on the grants. Dale mentioned that, working with the DNR grant, which was submitted. We have a really good chance at getting that this year. We have some other things for Regional Park that are moving forward. Dale has been extremely integral in that and been absolutely invaluable. Of all the people that I've worked with since I've been involved in Park and Rec, he has been the driving force on the grants portion of it. It's been wonderful and refreshing. Let me tell you, it's been a great help for us. We have also brought in the Wright County Veterans Memorial. Michelle had mentioned a little bit about that to kind of partner up with that. And that'll be a great thing as we move along. We'll bring more to you guys so you can see more details on it. Reminder that the egg hunt is approaching. Easter comes early this year, so the egg hunt is about a month away. Since Sean is no longer here and he used to be our staff person for Park and Rec, we will need to figure out who it is that we need to go to for when we have things like that that we need to purchase. Do we come to you guys? Do we go to Dale? Do we go to Wendy? Who do we need?
Dale.
Okay. And along those lines, we definitely want to thank Sean for all the time that he spent with us. He helped us a lot with the planning and budgeting and that sort of thing. We also want to acknowledge Jason, Public Works Department guys, and the Fire Department for taking care of our ice rinks this year. They have flooded them and continued to maintain them for us, which has been wonderful. There have been a lot of use and a lot of good comments on it, so we want to thank them. And Pat for turning the lights on and off every night. We also have a new member that has been voted in by the commission, which is Chuck Smallwood. And so we need approval from the council tonight to be able to appoint him officially and get him sworn in. So I'll need a motion and a vote on that.
I will make the motion to appoint Chuck Smallwood to the rec. I'll second. Lloyd. Any discussion?
I was going to say, he's on the chair of one commission, can he be on another one even though he's the chair?
Yes, because Rue's the chair of Park and Rec and she's also on planning and zoning.
Yeah, but she's not in the chair.
She's a chair of Park and Rec.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, aye.
Yep. So, all right, then Lloyd.
Aye.
Jill. Aye. Ben.
Aye.
Melissa. Aye. And I will vote aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Perfect, thank you so much. With spring approaching, and I know later tonight you guys will have a discussion about the fees, et cetera, the fee schedule. When we had the special council workshop, and there was a discussion within it, if you guys look at that in your packet, the special council meetings from January 22nd, specifically lines 95 through 103 refers to parks. We have requested that you guys drop the $25 electricity fee and in place adopt a $25 exclusivity fee, which is to essentially lock out or reserve the park for use. Also, with that, combining the same paperwork that they do for the community center for the parks, including a refundable damage deposit. So you guys, if you will address that when we get to that portion, we do not need to do that right now. Lastly, we have got kind of a, for lack of better terms, a spendable amount, spendable money that the city puts aside for Park and Rec every year. It started at $1,000. When Kirby was on board with us, it got raised to either $1,300 or $1,500. And quite honestly, I cannot recall. I went back and looked and I couldn't find it. We are requesting that that line item become a specific line item, so when we look at the city budget, we can actually see it, rather than being general fund money.
It is, it's a line item.
We see the recreation one.
That's where it is.
That's the $8,000 line? Okay. So that's actually the next portion, is we wanted to see that as a line, but now Wendy has addressed that the recreation line is the line. Within that recreation line, open gym and Sparks get paid out of that. We are requesting that the balance of that become part of our spendable money. We've been looking at other cities around the area, and they have anywhere from $10,000 to $250,000 for their park and rec budget every year. And that is not including any public works stuff, that's strictly park and rec budget. So we kind of figured that we're asking to go from the $1,300 to be able to take over the balance remaining, which would be approximately $3,900 in that recreation. That would give us a little bit better budget to be able to start planning for whatever, new picnic tables or things like that that we want to do aside from capital improvement type things. So however you guys want to address that, we are asking for you to make some type of a motion or make it official this evening, if you will.
That actually is what it's for. When Sean was doing budget, that's why it got up to $8,000. I thought he told you at your park meetings.
He did not.
So the difference between what we pay to Spark, which is generally around $2,500 or $2,900, and what we pay to Open Gym, the difference is for you guys to use. So if you come in one day, I can sit down with you and show you what we.
That would be great.
The only other item we have in there too is the $100.
That's separate.
Okay.
And then also with that, every time that we need to purchase something, whether it be $10, $50, whatever, we need to come to council and ask for spending approval on that. We would also like to have an authority to go up to $500. We already have to go through Wendy or Dale for it, so it is already like partially vetted, so to speak. So it's not going to be something that would be frivolous or wasteful. So we don't have to come to you guys every single time for every tiny little thing. So we would address that as well. We appreciate that.
Don't we normally have it, typically if it's in the budget, just as long as you stay within the budget, they have that spending?
You have to authorize spending authority, and the only people that are authorized is Dale
Dale
and
is currently
Sean.
in
So
charge.
they still would have to go through Dale.
Right, but she's asking to just go through Dale, not council. But they already have that budget, so it's already been approved, if we approve it now.
We were always
Yes.
told anytime we wanted to spend anything, we had to come and get it approved from you guys. So
No, if it's already in your budget, we pretty much approved that. So then you would just go to Dale.
perfect.
Yeah.
That cuts out the middleman. That's awesome. All right, so we've got candy that's going to get purchased pretty quickly, so I'll meet with you on that. Anything else for me? Any questions on anything we're doing?
In the discussion with the town hall meetings, do you have them planned? Did you want to inform the council on what you have planned?
We do have them planned, and I would have to get my calendar out first, because I did not put it on here. We do have one coming up, the 26th? I believe so. At 7 o'clock, and initially we were trying to think that it would be a sort of like a business expo type thing, where we could have the businesses there, and so they could kind of promote themselves and people would know what we had in town. But we realized that there's 2 weeks' time, there's no way that businesses can get stuff together in that amount of time. So we're thinking that that's going to get moved out a little bit, and this one may end up being more like hot button type issues, things that people have questions or concerns over. And the things you see on, sadly, on CUNY Montrose, where they kind of get blown up, will be likely the issues that get addressed. And then I will be prepared for you next month and have all the rest of them up for you. Anything else? All good? All right, thank you. Thank you.
On those lines, you guys probably see community page. Except you. Or you. I did ask the question if people, to help the community and the residents understand more how the government, how things day-to-day operations work, if we would be willing to do like an open house kind of deal like that, to maybe have some staff talk with staff and see if, you know, they would be willing to come in and say what every day, because I don't think they understand, like, the big issue is how we plow the streets, what the procedures is, where do we go, how do we do it, you know, being short-staffed, how do we maintain that, how do we do our budgets. So just seeing if you guys would be willing to take a night, if we could plan a night and just kind of do something to help the community understand exactly how the city is run.
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea. You know, one of the gals on Park and Rec, who also lives in our neighborhood, had sent me an email because she works for the city of Hopkins and they do something similar to that. And the concept is very cool, but they only, and I don't know how exactly we would structure ours, but they have kind of a form that's filled out that says I want to attend the next one, and then there's only a certain allotted number of people that can attend, I'm sure just for space purposes. But the overall concept is fantastic, because I think a lot of the confusion that comes is that, you're exactly right, that people just don't fully understand government.
Mm-hmm. And once we start trying to answer questions on social media, they kind of understand it more, but not everybody that's on that community page really wants to see it because they're not all Montrose residents. So if we could set up something, if we want to maybe think about February, March, something, in maybe that fourth Monday that we already have kind of booked out. You guys up for that? Ben?
I'd have to look at my schedule, what I've got going on. I don't think of anything off the top of my head. No.
Okay. So we'll try and get something out, maybe, to everybody, and just kind of tentatively keep that date. You on vacation?
No. All my vacations are done.
You're good? Okay. All right. Dale?
On? Yes, okay. First up for me is the fee schedule, ordinance 2018-01. At the meeting last month that I wasn't here, I think I had a memo in the packet indicating that it had been a while since the city had actually reviewed a fee schedule. In the past, they had just basically renewed in effect what the previous year's fee schedule was. And so I thought it would be a good time to have the council and the planning commission, as it relates to the zoning fees, take a good hard look at this just to see if there was anything that we need to look at, change, increase, decrease, and so forth. Planning commission looked at the zoning fees and there were actually a couple of meetings where that was done. One was the January 17th Planning Commission, and then the 22nd Special Council meeting. And at that time, City Planner Mark Kaltzis, who is here tonight to answer questions, provided a document that in essence divides a lot of the fees into, he has type 1, type 2, easy way to look at it is simple and complex. And the simple request, we're proposing a $400 application fee with an initial escrow deposit of $1,000. The more complex ones would be $650 for an application fee and an initial escrow of $1,250, $1,250. One of the problems with the existing fee schedule is that it did not give any direction to the staff as to what escrow to ask for. And while I don't believe anyone on the staff would abuse that authority, it's still there. And so to come up with some level of consistency on it, that's where we come up with those numbers. Now, please bear in mind that even for the more complex ones, more than likely $1,250 is not going to cover it, and at that point we would be asking for replenishment of the escrow account till such point in time that they're at least even. Lloyd had asked for an increase in the AUAR fee from $200 per acre to $500 per acre, thinking that would be more, make it a little easier to recoup our six-figure investment in that document. Mark is here to answer any questions on zoning, but before we go to him, I want to just quickly touch on the other fees that are changing or proposed to be changed as a result of this review. Animal license and animal fines. It should come as no shock to anyone that lives in the city that we have unlicensed dogs running around. And I think the consensus of the group was that it's more important to get an accurate count, census of the animals we have in town. The modest fee, you would think some people, well, what we're talking about, $12, it's like, what's the big deal? But it just so happens that can be an impediment to somebody coming in and getting their dog licensed. And so what a lot of cities are doing is waiving the fee. In 2 cities, I've seen it where it's a lifetime fee, lifetime license, no fee. This council and this group decided to maintain the 2-year license, but still have it no charge. So that would remove the impediment to getting your dog licensed. On the other hand, what the group decided was, as long as the license itself was no charge, if you don't get your dog license, then there should be an increase in the penalty and the fine for not doing so. And as such, the first offense fine is proposed to increase from $30 to $100, and subsequent offense fine is to be increased from $20 to $200. We also have a message back in the day when we actually boarded the pets. We don't board them anymore. I believe they go up to Buffalo. And so we eliminated the boarding fees from the fee schedule. Brew had talked about under parks. She called it with exclusivity, basically charging for reserving any city facility, whether it be the pavilion, the park, or anything else. And she's correct in that $25 for electricity, you'd have to be probably running a concert for a couple hours if allowed to really burn up 25. But on the other hand, when people reserve a facility, they expect no one else is going to crowd in there. And so to have some sort of a modest fee that reflects the city's cost of processing, and also giving the individual so reserving the facility that level of exclusivity so they don't have to worry about someone else horning in. And certainly as part of that, we would have to have some something posted on the site so people that have not reserved it are aware of the fact that it is reserved. On the other hand, I don't believe our current system has a damage deposit. If it is, I stand corrected. I think a damage deposit is worthwhile because it does take staff time to clean it up. And the one thing that we will tell people when they're reserving the park and putting the deposit down is to, when it's clean, take timestamp photos of it afterwards. Because after you're gone, if it's not reserved, anybody can use it. And so maybe the people after you are trashing it. But if you don't have the documentation, you're the one that's going to lose your damage deposit. So, and we're proposing a damage deposit of $300, which I think would deter people from trashing the facility and also come some way to reflect the cost to the city of cleaning it up. The community center is probably one that I'm still a little bit lost on. At the meeting we had on the 22nd, I was led to believe that the group wanted more information relative to the usage of the community center. The comments that have been made to my face as well as in social media is that the fees are too high, but we have a pretty good community center. And if you compare it to what you can get in other communities, I like this. I think the only hall I've been in that's better, that would be probably used the way this is used, is probably Rockford Township. But I'm sure they charge more than we do. And so my understanding is that since that meeting, there's been some subsequent discussion between the staff and at least Mayor Otto. I don't know if anyone else has had a discussion. And that at this time, at least it's proposed for tonight that those fees are to be undisturbed. Again, as an assurance to the council, when you establish a fee schedule, it's not written in granite. You're not stuck with it for the whole year. You can always go back and change it. The only thing is you'll have to change it by ordinance and not just change it. So finally, one thing that was added after all these meetings, but it's probably an oversight that was done by the city. Back in 2015, the city adopted an ordinance to comply with the state building code. That ordinance said that detached accessory structures 200 square feet and under do not require building permits. And so we don't have an opportunity to review those sheds to see if they conform with the aesthetic requirements of our ordinance, aesthetic and engineering and so forth. The ordinance is quite, I think, strict. And so it creates a situation where somebody goes to Menards, buys a shed, puts it on their property, we don't see it, and then 2 weeks later they get a notice of violation because the roof is a different color on the shed than it is on the house. And I think we're almost asking people to lean into a violation at that point. So what I added here is a way for us to review all of these, just so people don't spend a lot of money just to find out later they got to return it, is to have a $15 shed permit that covers our cost to review, just so we can have some way of letting them know whether this conforms with our ordinance or not. Other than those fees, I think everything else is pretty much the same. The fee schedule includes the administrative fines that the council adopted that was omitted from last year's. I don't think that necessarily, I guess I stand corrected, I think the fines are probably still valid, although they weren't on there because the fines themselves were adopted by a separate ordinance, so probably we're still good. Also, the increase in the SAC and WAC and the water rates that were previously approved by the council are reflected in the fee schedule. So, and also I believe I want to direct your attention to, I wish I would have put page numbers on, lower right-hand corner of the page where it says community center, no charge for nonprofit use. Okay. I just want to clarify that we have that pretty much as the council wanted it based on the meetings we had. So, other than that, that concludes my remarks, and we're willing to answer any questions the council or public has.
So the community center one, there's no changes to those fees, correct?
That is correct. Just a clarification that nonprofits are free, but it appears that we would charge for a few. So, $50.
And then the only thing that I want to clarify is that if they have like a wedding discussion, if they do Friday and Saturday, it's actually $400. Because they have that setup fee on Friday, is $100. With the $300, correct?
So if they rent it just Saturday, it's 300. If they rent it both days, it's a total of 400. We give them a break if they rent it.
So then that verbiage has to be updated. So
Okay.
now I would assume updating Friday and Saturday.
For $300.
Right, okay.
So,
Just for clarification, you would like that written such that it is, a Saturday rental is 300. If you're setting up Friday for a Saturday rental, that's 100 for the Friday.
So I think it used to say Friday or Saturday, $300.
Right.
Friday and Saturday, $400.
Okay. Yeah, that makes it easier. Okay, thank you.
is there any other discussion? Is there a motion?
Dale, can you quickly discuss the sump pump permit?
Yeah, I forgot to address that. Thank you, Jill, for bringing that to my attention. Later on in tonight's meeting, you will see ordinance amendments related to our sump pump ordinance. At the recommendation of the city engineer, he is requesting that he has an opportunity to review all placements of all sump pumps, not included in the original building permit. Is that correct, Justin? Because that would be a building inspector.
Yeah, what that fee would cover is actually, would cover public works staff to actually go out and inspect the permit, because they're going to be connecting to our city system, whether it be to our city drain tile or our city storm sewer system. That's required as part of the new ordinance amendment. So since they're making a connection to the city system, it would be prudent to have that inspected like we do all other city utilities. Because if they don't make the proper connection, eventually the city will have to go out there and fix it on their dollar. So it's not necessarily my time, it's more so maybe some recovery. If, a special circumstance, I would get involved, but on a day-to-day permit, we would work with public works staff to do that sort of inspection.
All right, any other discussion?
Just one point of clarification on the park portion before you adopt this or whatever you decide to do. It says proposed user fee is $25. It's $25 per day, not per event.
Per day.
Just clarification. Now, as per day is what we want in there, not per event.
Right.
I'll put that as a clarifying clause in the fee schedule.
Anything else? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2018-01 on the setting of various development and administrative fees.
You got it.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
All right, Ben,
Aye.
Jill,
Hi.
Melissa. Aye. I'll vote aye. Lloyd.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Next is proposal to repeal repeal the city code section 21.06.B.1, which calls for roll call votes for any question pending before the council. The ordinance reads in relevant part, quote, "The votes of members on any question pending before the council will be by roll call vote." And to me, the issue is one operation. There's very few times state law requires a roll call vote, generally speaking, when there's, I think, when you go out for bonding is probably one. And I certainly am aware of the history as to why this was put in the first place. Okay. From what I understand, the recording secretary could not hear the votes of members, or the members themselves were choosing not to vote. And I guess I am of the opinion you can't really force someone to vote. The absence of voting is, making, their opinion on that issue. Now, the council could certainly have a policy that says we'll do roll call votes, because when you fail to call for the roll, that's an ordinance violation, which is a misdemeanor. And just tonight, the motion to approve the agenda was not done by roll call, which means by right, we could have this gentleman here get his ticket voted out. And I really don't think that was the intent. So, if it's something the council feels strongly about, certainly a policy to that effect would be an appropriate way to handle it. I think I got pretty good ears, and I can hear who's making the yays and nays. And it's still, even by repealing this, doesn't mean that the presiding officer can't call for the roll, can't make a roll call vote, but it eliminates it being an ordinance. So that's all I have to say. If you have any questions, we won't have to answer.
Any discussion? Motions? I'll make that motion to approve 2018-02 to repeal of the city code section 21.06.B.1.
I'll second that motion.
All right. Melissa? Aye. Jill? Aye. Lloyd?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. This will be the last item before we got to switch the tape, or the CD, because we've got about less than 10 minutes left on it. RFP update, city attorney and city engineer. As you'll see in the memo, the council was given hard copies of the RFPs. We had 6 for engineer and 4 for attorney. And I have in my memo kind of a spreadsheet, for lack of a better word, that has the rates, proposed hourly rate and meeting attendance fee for the 6 proposals for engineer and the 4 proposals for attorney. Actually, there isn't a meeting attendance fee for attorney because they're all going to charge us. They are open, the attorneys are all open to retainers, but, and I think this was wise on their part, they wanted to wait to see what level of activity that would be generated before establishing a retainer. It's kind of a touchy subject, because if you shoot too high, then it looks like, well, 2 bad things can happen. One, we might have to give them a refund, or they'd have to give us a refund. But more important, it might also encourage the use for, frivolous purposes. If it's too low, then public questions why we're getting bills when they're on retainer. So I think it's wise for them to maybe give a few months just to see how that all goes, and then at that point, they would recommend a retainer. So at this point, it's up to the council on a couple of items. One, which firms do they want to interview for city engineer and city attorney? And then, do you want to do them on the same day, different days? I'm sure the council's been through this before, so have I. And it can be, if you try to do them all in one day, you're going to be brain dead. I'll pretty much tell you that right now. So, it's up to the council on how you want to approach this.
Is there discussion on this?
So on the second page of your memo, it stated that City Council can either A, extend the RFP process, so if we're not content with the RFPs we received, we could extend it. We can bypass the interview process and decide on one of the proposals, assuming that we have good knowledge behind those that submitted, we can just not do interviews, or we can interview.
That is correct.
Let's start with the engineer. Start with the engineer.
Your call.
Should we go with let's go with the engineer since we have Justin down there. Typically what we do is, what we've done in the past, when we do RFPs, is we interview each interested party so that we can get a feel for who they are. Just, typical job interview kind of deal. So,
Are we going to want to interview all 6 of these, or do you think based on hourly rates and meeting attendance fees, we could eliminate? Because our $525 meeting attendance fees is awfully high.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
I think charging for a meeting.
I agree.
When you say charging for a meeting, is that just a council meeting or meetings in general?
That was the council meeting fee for attending a council meeting, regular council meeting.
You guys want to interview all 6?
No.
5, 4, 3?
Maybe just eliminate the $525 one and interview the rest of them.
I do feel like the 150 is high though, because then you're going to factor in a meeting
That's
attendance
traveling
fee
time
of
too.
$50. Say the person lives an hour away. Our meetings are generally 2 hours. That's going to be an additional $600 per meeting for them too.
Yeah.
Or you can go with the second one there, Mike, or whatever you pronounce it. It's $130 just a flat fee.
That's better.
But then you have above and below, no charge.
Yeah.
Okay. I think one thing we need to be a little cautious of is that we don't have Sean here right now. And we lose Justin.
We still have to look at all of our options.
I don't disagree.
Mhm.
You're saying that that is a major concern of mine because there's nothing in that.
This wouldn't even take place for a good month and a half, at least, because you figure we have to give them a 2-week, which would bring us into March. We would interview. And possibly, if we were to change, they wouldn't even take over until maybe April.
I would rather see us have Public Works Director in place before we interview, personally.
Right, and we take them applications till the end of Friday.
And we have not set a date of
Interview
the
process.
interview process and going through that. I would like to personally put off engineering for right now until after we have a public works director in place.
Well, the public works director would be, like typically the way that we've talked about this, we are taking the applications up until Friday. And then we usually still start calling. Hold on. That would be the 16th. We would start making phone calls to set up the week of the 19th or the 23rd for interviewing. To interview into February, into the beginning of the first week of March.
Which puts them not
To
being.
make us, next council meeting is the 12th, but we can also have a special meeting the week before.
When are we gonna fill Melissa's open seat too?
Well, after March 1st.
Yeah.
But we can start taking applications from Melissa starting tomorrow, which is the 13th. How long do we want to give them applications for? Let's start with that first. 23rd.
Okay.
Yeah, that gives about a week and a half. So if we post Melissa's vacancy tomorrow, take applicants up till the 23rd of February to interview the 27th and 28th. Let's do 27th. Everybody good with 27th? Ben?
What day is that, Monday?
Tuesday,
What time?
5.
For what, for Tuesday?
Interviewing for Melissa's, starting at 5.
Where are you looking at that, doing that at?
Do it at the city.
City
Yeah,
Hall.
through the City Hall.
You can forego fire department.
I'm just looking at all the other meetings and stuff that I have going on that day at work.
If we start at 5, that's too early, or 3
Yeah,
for work?
that's true.
5:30?
6:30?
7 o'clock.
But you have to factor in, I mean, how many?
How many are we gonna have? Are we gonna be here all night?
applicants are we gonna get? How many applicants are we gonna get, and how long is each interview gonna take? If each interview's gonna.
And when do they get off work?
Right.
So 7 is really.
You've had a lot of inquiries?
I would say half dozen.
So can we just tentatively put the 27th, time to be determined based on the number of applicants?
Not starting before 5.
Okay. I mean, that way if we get 10 applicants, we're gonna have to slot all them in.
I think we gave, when I was on, I think we had a time frame of talking. Did we not?
Was it
Well,
like?
we just asked the
No,
question.
it was a Clinton.
Seriously?
Yeah, it was not even, it was in and out.
10-7's great.
We just have a couple questions for each person, and then,
Yeah, so it wasn't real long, but
15 minutes per, and
Yeah.
5 minutes in between.
in between,
Yeah,
so 20
so you get
minutes.
3 an hour.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, do you want to do 6 of those in one night? We'll get back to the brain dead issue again. So,
Well, it's kind of like, we did 5 for Maggie. Didn't we? Four. When we interviewed for yours. I know it's around 45 minutes.
but you started at 3,
We did,
yeah, so.
yeah. So we do 3 now.
I guess as long as I know with 3 days' notice, because we'll have to post it as a special meeting, and we can't post a special meeting with the time to be
Without a
determined.
time, right.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean,
Are you
with the
good?
23rd, well, that's Friday, so I'll go with, 11 o'clock Friday. And then, based on that, I think we can have some, continued communications on that. So we'll have an idea how many we're looking at, and then we can either do it one night, 2 nights, just the time, whatever, so.
So we'll start on the 27th. not before 6, because then it was busy. So, technically, that's where we're at.
Drive it out in the city.
Right, well, if they want to be a council member, they have to be.
Then they can pick a later slot. I mean, at that point, I don't know how many there are,
No.
and they can pick a 7:30 slot, you know what I mean?
Okay, so.
They also nobody on council, they're gonna have to.
Adjust their schedules
Some of their schedules.
multiple times.
Hey, well.
Every day of the week. So that's, and then like I said, we've got Sean's position ending Friday. And then,
Do we need to pause?
currently we have 5 applicants for Sean's position. And we
I'm not
scheduled-
sure all of them meet the minimum qualifications, though.
I think only 3 do.
Yeah, so we don't want to waste time, you know.
Right,
We'll
right.
just have to point them.
Yeah. So currently we have 3 qualified without qualifications. That's fine. So if we set up those, maybe next week, who's going to do? That's going to be awesome. Who's going to set up the questions?
I can get questions, that won't be a problem.
Okay.
I guess I would be concerned about that quick turnaround. So I guess I would maybe do it on March 1st, that would be a Thursday. Because you have to give people time to arrange their schedules, because usually for a position like this, they're already in the business, so they might have other meetings that they have to go to, so.
That'd be a
I guess I-
2-week.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, not everyone's gonna do what I do,
right.
you know, so.
Okay, so if we start scheduling, if you can, starting those at 3?
Do we want the new council member to partake in this?
It probably depends who it is, if it's one that's experienced.
Well,
I say yes, we do.
Yeah.
So we have to hold a special meeting to swear them in.
Right, so if we start the interviewing on the 27th.
I won't be here March 1st.
And I was going to say, would be leaving March 1st at about 4 o'clock to be done with that.
We're kicking it over the following week,
Can do anytime,
which is fine. I mean,
just not Monday.
Not Monday, for correct.
Monday, so I think the 6th, Tuesday, March 6th.
Okay. Yep. Is everybody available that day?
And then the new person would be
Yeah.
effective then.
We have to remind the new person availability is a big thing. No offense, guys.
Well, that'll be a question.
Right.
I would ask.
Yeah.
So starting at 3 on the 6th, does that work? Okay. So then, that's with Melissa's. Or is that Sean?
This is for Sean.
Sean's.
Sean,
That's Sean's.
right.
So then we got Melissa's on Tuesday.
Which one is that?
So then if we decide to choose, we could do a special meeting on,
Can't we just, weren't you like,
we have to appoint him in.
weren't you Wednesday day?
I was, but it was on a normal council meeting night,
Right.
so.
You could appoint them that night.
Can.
You could.
Yeah,
Might as well, let's go for it.
Yeah.
I agree.
Could be 10 o'clock.
Can we technically appoint them when Melissa still
Yes,
holds
yeah.
her seat until?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
because we'll just appoint them effective
March 1st.
March
March 2nd at
March 2nd
12:01,
at
yeah.
12 a.m. 12 o'clock a.m.
Yes.
Yeah, she said she resigned effective March 1st. So in the resolution, it's effective 11, she's until 11:59 PM, March 1st.
Yes.
So this person would be on effective 12/01, March 2nd. That's when their term would start. So you could swear them in not with that knowledge, yeah.
Okay.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. So getting back to the engineering portion of this, let's see, the next council meeting, which is March 12th, everybody should be in place, hopefully.
Well,
Your public works did not,
We just
because
do
you-
interviewing.
They're
Well,
in
they're
first,
not
it makes
gonna
2 weeks.
notice.
2 weeks, they would
Which
be
puts the
in
15th,
April.
which puts you to April.
Mhm. Okay, any further, how do you guys, discussion on it? We can't really put it, I mean, we can put it off, obviously, but how far do we want to go
Well, I think the
with the
new,
firms that we could be possibly interviewing?
I think the new public works director has to be a part of those
Yes.
interviews, without a doubt.
Right.
And so it's a matter of, do you wait until, I mean, so that's, public works director interviews is March 6th. We'll have a decision hopefully over to them later that week. Hopefully they will have accepted, assuming that we will accept their employment on the 12th, which is a council meeting.
Right.
And at that point, they'll give a 2-week notice, so until they'll start.
26th, 2-week notice.
Yeah, so they'll start the 26th. So hypothetically, going to do interviews, it could be that last week in March or first week of April, if they're only going to give a 2-week. So we need to determine if we want to put a date on interviews
For engineering.
for engineering.
Well, let's take, Ben, would you available March 26th to 30th?
For the most part, I'm open.
So can we schedule something for the 27th?
Why on Tuesday?
Why?
Yeah.
Ah, no, it's the date that was there, that's the next date, because the 26th, we're hoping they could possibly start first day of a public works. So whatever,
So then the next day we're interviewing for,
well, we've got to start, I mean, we can't keep putting off, we got to get it going. It'll be December. No,
But
get
that's-
a new council anyway.
I mean, not that I'm not gonna be here, but that's assuming that,
Everything
they are
goes.
starting on the 26th and everything goes according to plan. I mean,
Right.
I mean, I would either do it later in the week or the beginning of the next. week.
I would put it out into the middle of April before we would interview for engineering. Because, I mean, that gives them a chance to get in here, get their feet under them somewhat versus getting them in here and then now everything, any questions that they may have, if we did choose someone besides Bolton and Mink, where do they go for answers? You have Jason.
It may provide the new director an opportunity to really dig into our city and to be able to ask relevant questions to the candidates specific to our city instead of them being completely generic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's gonna give them more time to know and understand our community and our city and the way everything works because
Maybe there's a really convoluted way of that something on the CIP plan is, and perhaps there can be questions from that. I don't know, I'm just putting some hypotheticals out there, but if we only allow the public works director a day to review some of that data, he's
I
not
think
gonna
that's
have that
unrealistic.
knowledge.
First week of April?
17 Bolton and Mink for this year, just given our situation, that Bolton and Mink can provide the information transition to the new public
No,
works
because
director?
we went out for RFPs. And we did that because it was voted on and chosen to do that, so.
Correct, then Sean left.
Correct, he did. And you know what, and Melissa's leaving, and we've had Maggie leave, and we still gotta do what we gotta do. So,
But it also specifically states in here, you can extend the process by
We can extend
the
it.
process and decide
Yes.
on a proposal or select for an interview. So if you're not specifically, you don't have to interview. I mean, there are other options. I won't be here, so I'm just pointing that out. That I mean, I think giving that new person a chance to figure out what they're doing, and figure out the city a little bit would be fair. I mean,
so if we choose to go out, which we have already done that for the RFPs, we've got everybody back. And if we take like the top 3 or 4, because you guys have already rolled out the bottom 2, and to be in contact with whoever we decide to interview, and maybe go till May 1st. Is that acceptable?
How do you more agreeable? Because then that's gonna give them
That'll give them
hopefully
a
the month
month.
of April,
The
provided
month of
they
April.
start the end of March, like we're anticipating.
Acceptable then, to start an interview process May 1st?
No.
May 2nd.
I love you, Ben.
May 1st.
I don't want to miss my fire department meeting.
Okay, it's Tuesday, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
I can't miss
Okay.
my fire department.
Really, he and Kevin have, there's.
Well, I have to be there as the council liaison, and that's the main meeting, so.
We could excuse you for that one.
Kevin would
Thanks, Kevin.
Kevin would cry because maybe that was the time that I was going to turn in my application, Kevin. And now I can't.
It's okay to go, Kevin? Thank you. So let's just go with May 1st, start it out.
My vote's for May 2nd.
You have what you say, Lloyd? What do you got?
Well, I don't know, you were just deciding the dates.
Right. All good? Do you have time then?
What day is May 2nd?
Wednesday. Community center's open on Wednesdays.
And Monday is what?
April 30th.
April 30th.
What's the difference between April 30th and May 1st?
Monday is Park and Rec and Personnel.
Oh, sorry, no, it's not, it's the end of the month.
Not that day.
I'm sorry, people.
We want to start it off on Monday then. May,
April
April 31st or whatever it is.
30th.
go with that.
Ben?
Ben? Starting at 3? Well, these are engineers coming from a distance. If we start at 4:30, some of them, it'll be 7, 8 o'clock. So, start at 3? That's good? Yeah?
We'll have to make it work.
Oh, you got things at work. Okay, no.
And that works.
3:30. Does that work better?
Anytime before about 6 really doesn't work, so it doesn't matter. That's PM.
So 3:30?
3:30.
Oh. April 30th at 3:30. Engineers. And my vote would be top 3 or 4, not coming on the list. I guess if we choose to go MSA at that point, we could clarify their meeting attendance fees.
Do we want to go with top 4 or top 3?
I say 3.
Okay, Lloyd,
Which one's the?
Bolton, Mink, Wink, and Stantec.
What's the next one over there?
MSA. They're all right around anywhere from 125 to 140. 3 or 4?
I'd rather say 4, but 3 would be fine.
What do you got, Jill?
3's fine.
Top 3. And you will be in contact with them? All right, thank you. Attorneys?
No, that's long gone. We're going on with what?
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's my fault. But I didn't want to interrupt the flow of this.
All right, how about the attorneys? When do we want to interview them? We can do that sooner. Where are we at? We're at February. The discussion though, Tom, I'm going to get you into this discussion right now if you don't mind. We are currently in union negotiations, so with Expert Planners not being a part of, not putting in a proposal, we have to decide who our union attorney is going to be currently for the union, for the 49s. We have Lida, what's her last name?
Yeah.
Okay. Who started working with us earlier in the month. So do we want to continue that direction? And if you want to talk, what is the fee?
LIDA is for her municipal work, does an hourly fee of $200 an hour. Yeah, that's a reduction of her regular rate, but that's what her municipal rate is at for labor negotiations.
Okay.
And we provided you with the copy of a retainer. You know, I think previously we were just operating without, but with us not putting a bid in the RFP and you know, obviously a new attorney coming in, we thought an appropriate time to formalize the labor negotiation agreement so that we know that that's in place and just so that it's clear going forward that that representation will continue if that's the desire of the council.
Like I said, currently we are working with Lida. She was here. Okay, and she will be coming back on our next meeting is the 20th to continue more negotiations. This process shouldn't take too long. Yes, there's not a lot of, shouldn't be a lot of changes going on. So it's at the direction the council wants to continue, is continuing to use Lida at the fee of $200. Currently, we have the budget of $10,000 for union negotiations. So.
I would also just quickly point out that the fee agreement that LIDA provided you was for both the 49ers as well as the ASME. Council 65. You know, we thought it was for continuity's sake, she would have been able to those. So that's, if you're looking at the agreement that she provided, that's where it stands right now. Certainly that, again, is the discretion of the council. They want to proceed with that, but that's how it's been presented to Michelle. Yeah.
By that time, we should have an attorney in turn.
Okay.
So I'd say we'll need to finish up the 49.
Would she be willing to just do the 49ers?
Yeah, I mean, I think she would. I think it was more so for ease of continued negotiations because the two are similar.
Yeah.
And now these law firms have employment components, and I don't know necessarily if the city attorney that you guys end up hiring will have a labor and employment attorney. Certainly that's something that may be considered, but that's another factor going forward.
I mean, there is pros and cons to both ways, because if you keep her, she's gonna have that knowledge of the 49 contract, and will potentially be able to, you know, push some of that data while they're separate contracts still into the AFSCME contract. Because it's a lot to keep track of.
Bringing in a new person.
Right.
Right.
And then I think we have to update them on the old one, so that they understand the difference between the two. Wait, I can figure out some of the commonalities between the two too.
And with LIDA, we still would have Andy's connection, who originated the ASME contract, or both contracts.
So maybe maybe there is some sense in keeping her for both of them.
The second contract is the ways off.
We can start that second contract anytime.
I thought we were going to start in August.
Then I can't
We
be a
could.
part of it.
Huh?
Then I can't be a part of it. And I know
We discussed moving that up.
Right.
Once we had the meeting at City Hall, we were talking about Sean, that we discussed moving it up to, like, starting like in June.
Yeah, pretty much when this one is done, good and ready, moving into the next one. Yeah, because Jill wouldn't be around. We would have a new council member, and I'm not sure what Ben's availability would be, because we typically meet at 3 o'clock for that stuff.
And that's just,
You got to be flexible here.
oh, I know, but when
I just heard that from two different people.
when I have large companies calling me and needing some answers though too, I do kind of have to answer for some stuff at work. Yeah.
So do we want to then continue with, I mean, that is
We
something
don't
that,
have to make that decision tonight.
well, we've kind of got to
I
determine it, yeah.
I think we
Yeah.
Should we just see the new attorney, what they got to offer?
Well, we've got the information. We got the information last week in front of us. Dale provided that information to us, so I don't know if anybody's really had a chance to dig into it, but Ben, what's your thoughts?
I'm okay with keeping her on for the union negotiation.
Both contracts?
Yes, for both union negotiations, just to keep the similarities, keep it flowing through.
Jill, what do you think?
I'm good with that.
Lloyd?
No, I'm not good with
Sean? I'm good with it. She's had great communication so far. She's gotten everything we've needed. She's keeping in contact with Ray and the guys, so I'm okay with moving forward with her. All
that.
right,
For the 49 contract.
for both contracts.
Yeah, I don't agree with the second contract.
Okay, well, the retainer, the information she sent us is to retain for both unions at $200 fee per hour.
Do you need a motion to, okay.
Did you say yeah?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Then I will make a motion to continue with Lytle Bannick as our union negotiation attorney for the 49 contract and the ASME 65 contract.
I'll second that.
Ben?
Aye.
Jill?
Aye.
I'm thinking, did we take Melissa's vote?
We don't have to roll call.
Oh, we still do it, just because. But do we need Melissa's?
Yeah.
Is she, okay, Melissa, go ahead.
Aye.
Lloyd?
No.
Don't worry. All right, and I will vote, Ben went, yes, and I'm gonna go aye, motion passes 4-1. Okay. So now we just have to pick, are we gonna go with interviewing all 4 attorneys, and when we wanna do it?
I really like the thought of only doing 3, but I feel like they're all so close, price-wise. And I don't have a ton of information on any of them.
Let's go with all 4.
Yeah.
Date. Start that in March.
Maybe like somewhere in the week of the 19th?
February?
February?
No, March.
Holy moly.
No.
That's past council.
Yeah, because that'll give us, we'll have our new council member on, they'll at least have a chance to take a look at the RFPs then for themselves, give them a little bit of a chance to do some research on them.
So start March 20th, we can't do the 19th. So if we want to set up in that week, just excluding the 19th, does that sound, the Lions have them? Unless we do it at City Hall.
How do we post it as a public meeting? Well, so.
Yeah.
Could be.
I mean, we can do it here. Can't do it here. Well, depending on how late we go, we've got to be out of here before the fire department on the 20th.
Do we though? I mean,
Do you guys really use this? Or are you on the other side?
No, we use this for all our classroom stuff.
So we really only have for that week, Wednesday or Thursday?
and Wednesday is planning and zoning, correct?
The third week, yeah.
And if I'm correct, the 23rd is the luau, so...
22nd it is, but no.
The
they will be-
23rd is the luau, so they're going to want to be in here.
Yeah.
Should, not the 22nd, so we're looking at the 21st.
21st is planning and zoning.
So why don't we just take that fourth Monday, since we already have it blocked out for us anyway?
Okay.
Does that work?
Yeah.
26th?
Yeah.
What time are we doing them though?
3:30. Let's keep it the same as our engineers.
3:30?
Okay. Okay, are we all good?
Yeah.
And Dale, you're up on number 4.
Yeah, it's, I'm requesting to attend the Municipal Clerks and Finance Officers Conference in Bloomington on March 21st through 23rd. Something that is in the budget. And the fee is $290 plus 3 days lodging at the Doubletree by Hilton. And I put in an exhibit in the packet, the program. If you're wondering what that straight thing, you didn't know what it was, that's what it is. So, and so, I guess I just have it as a habit to run something that cost past the council for approval.
Any discussion on this? Everybody okay with it?
Yeah.
Yeah? Good? All right, have fun.
Thank you. That includes me.
Well, Public Works. You want to take that?
Justin, the sub pump ordinance.
Yeah, I can do that. So this is a draft of a revised ordinance. We had a sump pump ordinance in place previously, I believe, but we've had a lot of issues with sump pumps discharging on top of sidewalks, on top of streets, in areas where they just cause public nuisances. And the ordinances that we've had in place previously don't speak to those specific cases or put any restrictions in there on that. So Dale worked on drafting a lot of this ordinance, and then I reviewed it and made some additions to it. Basically, it just requires that residents hook up to the storm sewer system with their sump pump, and it also puts a caveat in there that between November 1st and March 31st, if determined by the city that it's unfeasible to discharge outside, that during those winter months they could hook up to the sanitary sewer via special permit. And the city records and keeps track of who those people are, and then notifies them when they need to hook or disconnect from the sewer and continue discharging outside towards the springtime. We talked about the fees already in place. It does require that whenever hooking up to the city system via either new construction or a new sump pump or a new sump pump discharge on an existing home, that be a permit be pulled for that and a sketch be included in with that so that the city has record of where these are at and we can maintain some sort of records with that respect, because there will be requirements for locating these. Whenever city utility, whenever a private utility goes, puts in a new utility, the city would need to locate these, or the property owner, and the property owner isn't going to be able to isn't going to be notified of that. So the city would locate these within the right of way. So I think it is a good ordinance that, like I say, it speaks to putting some restrictions around where people can discharge to and hopefully prevent that public nuisances that we've been seeing in regard to discharges of sump pumps.
Is there any discussion? Motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2018-03.
I'll second that motion.
Melissa? Aye. Lloyd?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Jill? Aye. And I'll vote aye. Motion passes 5-0. Justin?
That was it.
That's all you got? All right, Tom.
I don't think he has anything either.
Nothing? We're all good? All right. How about Jill?
Yeah.
All right.
All right, this one's on me. So we had several staff meetings last month, and based on some of those discussions that were had, I had some concerns just surrounding morale, as brought to our attention, and you were at that same meeting. So over those next couple of days, I had gone in and talked with several individuals within the city to try to figure out what we can do moving forward to try to increase morale, to try to boost morale within the city's staff, to make us better, essentially managers of those individuals, and how we can try to continue to move the city forward with a really positive work environment. There were definitely some concerns brought up, one of them being the Management Coordinating Committee, also known as Personnel Committee, and kind of the true vision of that committee, who's on that committee, are we appropriately handling the roles of that committee, and yeah, who's on that committee. So Dale actually brought up a resolution. 4.
You have one for the public?
I do.
Awesome.
Dale provided me copies for everyone. You want to get those? Thank you. Everyone for you. For the rest there.
Before we dash to where we began?
Oh, goodness. Switch it back to the Personnel Committee. Only because the role itself, we'll forever call it Personnel Committee. And why, the name in and of itself was, I think, provided kind of in a way more control than what we really should have had, or what the intent really was. So looking at back to Personnel Committee, as far as who's on it would remain the same for the city staff, so it would still be the treasurer, the works director, fire chief. And then there's discussion of removing you, Michelle, from it. And I didn't want to blindside you, but I'm like, I can't discuss it in there because people already think that we're secretive.
Right.
So this is the first thing this is the first time you're hearing of it. I promise on the original job. Other than Ben, nobody else knows or has knowledge regarding the plan here. So if you guys want to take a few minutes and read over it, or I can continue to talk
Go ahead.
about it. there's concern that you as mayor are pushing your authority more than what you really have. That some of these decisions that are being made as mayor really aren't your right, and that some of this needs to go back to all council. And there's concerns about just the mayor in general and the rapport that is had with staff. And there's been a lot of turnover over the last
2 years.
while. Report of other employees going on interviews, and we're just trying to figure out a way to hopefully stop that from happening. The suggestion was been on personnel. I know Dale had a conversation with Ben. Dale had a conversation with Ben, right, Dale?
Yes, we did. And I've also had conversation with my boss at work, and that's why some of these meetings that we discussed earlier here today was trying to push out more into the evening to try and eliminate some of my loss of work time, because deal with a lot of engineers and things like that at work, that they do expect that if there's an issue that they can call, but sometimes, yes, they do understand, we do have other lives outside of work. I also have had conversations. I had a kind of a brief little bit of a exit interview with Sean, and Sean made a comment to me. He said, "You don't leave a company, you leave management." And at that point in time, he had notified me that there were other city employees that have been on job interviews, and the only reason why they're still here is because they couldn't get all the fine details for the, otherwise we would have had others of them walk out. I've also had conversations with other city employees that have commented about your actions during some of the union negotiations.
Okay.
And them not being appropriate. Meaning laughing when you're reading their, what they bring to you about their, what they're wanting when you were reading it.
Okay.
So, I've had conversations with several, I think with actually a majority of city staff, and that was the feelings that they had.
Brenna?
So I guess I'm to the point where, I know it's not all on me, right, it's council, but one of my main objectives was to try to create a cohesive city staff, city council, all the way around, all council, all staff, work together. And I've always been of the opinion is if something's not currently working, change it. How do you change that? This was the suggestion, and I guess my feeling is why not try it? See if in fact changing then on the personnel makes a difference, if staff feels better, if morale improves. If not, then we'll have to try another avenue, but it would be my opinion, so why not try it?
Do you have an opinion?
Not good. I've kind of shocked Kelly with all this. I really don't think it's all Michelle's fault. We've had problems in the staff long before I ever even got into council.
I don't disagree, and I never said it was all Michelle's fault. That was a suggestion coming from multiple city staff members. This is how we feel that there could be improvement within the morale of the city. Clearly, there's been issues long before any of us have been on council. I don't disagree with that statement in any way, shape, or form. However, we are here where we are right now, and it's not in a good position. So how can we create that change, create that atmosphere of, enjoying doing the work, and wanting to be there, and wanting to improve the city, and being excited about changes that are coming forward?
And you're always gonna have disagreements, like, you're not always gonna, you're not always gonna get along with everyone 100% of the time, but it's maintaining that professional demeanor and, looking at it as, okay, we didn't get along, didn't agree on this one fact, but, there's other stuff you are going to agree on and work together with, so.
But on the other hand, as far as who's assigned to the different deals, that's the mayor's responsibility.
Is
The
it
mayor's
possible?
always appointed before.
But we as a council vote on it.
Right.
So the mayor,
No, never voted on anything since I've been on here. The first of the year, the mayor
Yeah.
used to come out with a list and say, well,
And
you're
vote
assigned
on
to this, can you take that? And that never was voted on. You can pull up all the minutes you can, and you won't find anybody voting on it.
Yeah.
Just a point of clarification, the mayor makes the appointments, but they have to be approved by the council. So the council, in theory, can reject a mayor's appointment or assignment to a committee. So,
And I believe in the past, we have made changes based on when meetings are held and who can make it to certain meetings.
Oh, for
Right,
sure.
yeah.
We just did that last summer.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Last one?
Ben, to go off of what you said, your exit interview with Sean.
Yes.
You did mention that he talked about management and stuff like that in the exit interview that I had with Sean. It was discussed on numerous occasions, and Joe can clarify this, that he basically felt he lost control of his department within the last 18 months
Okay.
with all the changes,
The union.
the unions, all of that kind of stuff. And a lot of that probably does come down to us because the decisions were made and the contracts were formed by all of us. And some of the things we couldn't dispute, we couldn't do anything about because of the contracts that were in place. So I do agree with Sean on that. It's a sad situation, it really is, but with this, I don't, obviously, I've always said anybody is welcome to come to all meetings, any meetings, open meetings. But I find it interesting to say that this was not discussed, that if there were problems and situations going that staff or council or anybody felt that there was, I wish it would have been addressed to me or even council, which is fine, instead of currently here, which either way is fine with me, but as Jill said, blindsided, which, but to bring up the morale and whatever, that definitely needs to be done. I totally agree with that, whether it's with staff and council. It needs to be done straight across the board, and I think by removing me would be an option. But to help build the morale, maybe it would be to have me assist in, and you lead, or whatever, and make the changes, and we still continue to work together, because we can't change things and continue to grow by eliminating people, because now you're just kind of shutting people out. And,
So you're saying then having this as a public meeting
it is a public meeting every month.
But the whole point of a personnel committee is that not to be a private meeting discussing personnel issues, things like that, and not have this, because you get into some personnel issues that are, HIPAA type stuff.
Correct.
And then, if you keep it as a personnel, keep it as, 2 members of council, you can just roll right through everything, but now you've got to close the session, kick everyone out, discuss that stuff, and then if you still have more of that, then you open the session back up, and it can be a little more seamless if it's 2 people.
Oh, Right.
Dan?
I hesitate to weigh in on this discussion. It's so fascinating to watch it from afar. But I've worked in a lot of cities, and this is the only city I've worked in where there's a personnel committee that meets monthly to go over things that are really beyond the scope of a personnel committee. Traditionally, personnel committees deal with issues such as hiring, discipline, if there's any changes, if there's complaints against employees, things of that nature. It just seems to me that the committee has almost taken over a role that the council has not delegated to it, which is being our supervisor. And that's I've never seen that before. It's just, it amazes me that in a Plan A city, which is a weak mayor, I go to these meetings and it's almost like, oh geez, you know, I better do what they say or else. And then I think to myself, no, they don't have the authority to do that. And the council has not specifically delegated its overall management responsibility to either the mayor or this committee, whatever name you want to call it. And it doesn't work. And I think that it's difficult to work in an environment where we talk to, yes, Mayor Otto, where I try to resolve a problem, it seems resolved, and then 2 weeks later it pops up again. At some point, there needs to be finality to it. And that goes directly to the fact that it seems like I'm hired for my experience. I tell you, based on my experience, how something should be done, and then it's like 2 weeks later, it's trashed. And
when we continually have residents that keep bringing up to get something resolved, though, how would you recommend that it's resolved?
I would recommend it resolved is that we have a clerk treasurer that's experienced in that, and we'd like to follow his recommendation on it. You know, at some point, the ping pong has to end.
Right.
Okay? And, I mean, I put in a few hours today dealing with an issue that's been festering long after I thought I had explained all of this to you. And continually hammering is not going to change my opinion.
Right, but what the topic you're discussing is a resident that had requested information that comes from city, and she is stating that she's not receiving the information she requested.
I never got the request until over the weekend.
Okay.
And then I gave it to her today.
Right,
Okay.
and her emails consistently say, I have requested and requested. You get the same email.
But it all has to do with the same property in question.
Correct.
Okay? And I don't know how many different ways I can explain it. Okay? But I report to the entire council.
Correct.
I don't report to any one or two of you. Okay? And that really, and this is probably something that I think everybody here needs to understand, my work priorities are in the following order. One, state law. Okay? It doesn't matter what the council tells me. If the state says I have to do it, I have to do it. That's why Wendy spends her time with the audit, because the state law says we have to have our books audited. Okay? So that is a priority item for her over anything else. Okay? Elections is another thing. We have to do elections. Okay? So that's our first priority, state statute. State says we have to do it, we do it. Second is approved council motions. Okay? The council votes 3-2, 4-1, whatever. They approve something, those are the marching orders of staff. Okay? Everything beyond that, it's almost discretionary. Okay? And so when I'm dealing with an issue, we have a problem at, I'm not going to say the address because it's irrelevant at this point, okay? I get a complaint about it. I respond to the complaint, okay? And that seems to tame it down for a couple of weeks. Then I get the same complaint again from the same person. And then at what point, as a council or as a representative, do you say, this is resolved for now? Your next step is to approach the council with a request that the council order me to do something about it, okay?
That was requested to that person.
Okay, and that person apparently has chosen not to do that, okay? Now, we can't defy the laws of physics here. Time spent doing this means time I can't spend on things that I've been given council direction on. And Brew, do you remember when I asked for council approval to work on this regional park stuff? That's why. Because that's a council direction that takes priority over, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but a boutique request, okay? And so, part of my job is zoning administrator. Part of that is me interpreting our orders. And so, when it comes to this, there's appeals to it. And I'm not saying that would force that individual to come up with a formal, I'm going to appeal the decision of the zoning administrator and bring it before whatever the appeals process is, planning commission, council, county council. But she has the right to approach the council and say, Dale's wrong, tell him what to do. And if there's 3 of you that do that, then you're telling me what to do. Okay, and I've explained to you in correspondence the pitfalls of doing that, okay? But the merry-go-round's got to end at some point. I can't keep going back and forth like a ping pong ball on this, okay? And what that has to do with morale is that if we don't have council representatives supporting what we're doing, doesn't mean you have to like it, doesn't mean you have to agree with it, but you understand where we're coming from on that, and we're not just making it up out of whole cloth. So it's like, okay, so which ping pong ball am I going to have to bet tomorrow? Okay, so, and some of that comes with this job. Okay, I understand that, but I guess I've worked in 10 cities, 2 counties, and 2 states, and normally at some point before this, the issue is settled. And the only way this is going to get settled is somebody tells her, look, okay, it's, you know, you've got your remedy. If you choose not to do it, there's nothing we can do about it. A little bit of support for the work we do would come in handy every once in a while, and I believe we get that by and large. But there's times that, and I think that the biggest perpetrator, to be honest with you, is you, Michelle. And I'm trying to make it easier for you. You know, the public thinks, well, let's talk to the mayor, she can take care of it. Mm-hmm. Mayor can't take care of it. Right. Mayor can't wave a wand and solve a problem. None of the 5 of you can. You can ask questions, relay that back to the public. If they don't like it, then they can remedy through open public forum, just like we had that house that had the big water. Okay? So, that's really all I have to say on it. I'll probably talk more than I wanted to be honest with you.
As far as Sean, the Public Works Director, good riddance, he's gone. I'm a taxpayer. If a background check would have been done on him, he had never been hired. And if you embarrass yourselves by acknowledging this guy at the end, thanking for being some other city's problem now, and thanking for getting $5,000 to $10,000 a year more than he should, the Montrose taxpayers for years. And as far as statutory speaking, as far as a weak mayor system, you're right, Dale, of course. The sad fact is we got a weak council. Majority. Thanks, Wade. pardon me, I forgot, other staff had left because of the public works director. Good people left because of him. Sorry.
I think to get the union contracts back into personnel committee, which is really the personnel committee's responsibility to discuss things exactly like that. The personnel, if this resolution is passed. Here, this page.
We would like to hear what you're saying, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm discussing the union contracts right now. Which page are you
The second page. The second page, the now therefore be it resolved, is a really clear explanation of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that it can be the personnel committee that is the representation for contract negotiations moving forward.
Mayor and council, would it help the public if maybe I read the 7 so they know what you're,
Sure.
is there any objection to that? Okay. So the 7 resolved, and I think there's copies of this over on the table, but I'm not sure. Number 1, the committee now known as the Management Coordinating Committee and formerly known as the Personnel Committee will revert back to being called the Personnel Committee. 2, it is made explicit through ratification of this resolution that the City Council retains its overall management supervisory responsibility over department heads and through department heads the entirety of the city's workforce. The Personnel Committee will not exercise any aspect of that management supervisory responsibility. 3, the purpose of the Personnel Committee shall be to liaise with city staff on routine administrative and personnel matters, including performance reviews of department heads, subsequent to approval of said reviews by the City Council, and other human resource matters, for example, procedure for filling staff vacancies. 4, the Personnel Committee shall consist solely of 2 elected officials. 5, Mayor Michelle Otto is hereby removed as a member of the Personnel Committee. 6, Councilmember Ben Keel is hereby named as a member of the Personnel Committee. 7, the Personnel Committee is hereby vested with the responsibility to represent the city in contract negotiations with the city's unionized workforce, subject to approval of the negotiated contracts by the City Council.
Any discussion?
Michelle?
Do you think I have discussion?
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say you have discussion.
I do. Solely because you all forgot that there is 3 on this committee of negotiations, because Lloyd was appointed.
Lloyd was appointed, was that just last month too, or was that?
That was all in January.
So it was just, that was a month ago.
So, correct. We have 2 members currently that are looking to be on this committee that have the most conflicts with their schedules, which being Jill and Ben. As we sat here and listened to Ben say, I can't make this, I can't make that. And I do understand that he was in discussion. And same as Jill, who's going to be from June to October.
August to October.
Well, correct. And I was a part of this last contract, both of them. Actually, no, just the 49 contract. So, part of the negotiations, we had 3 before. I would recommend continuing with 3, keeping the personnel at the personnel committee, going back to personnel committee, being Jill and Ben. I don't know your opinion on that, Lloyd.
Is that going to be open meeting, so like before, and I can come to?
No.
No, it would be a closed meeting like originally they were.
They've never been closed. I've been here for 5 years, they've never closed the meetings.
Well, they're
They've always
not
been open.
officially closed, but they're not posted as public meetings.
Right,
And that's where you get into the sticky
If,
situation.
when it was current, when Fred was here before, and it was Greg and Jill, I did attend, or Lloyd may attend, but we just were not allowed to participate.
Be on there with the three of us.
That was union negotiations. With the three of you.
Even on the personnel committee.
Right, or, that's good, correct, correct.
Because that was the mayor's authority.
Correct. Or even if we did attend, we weren't allowed to participate. So I'm perfectly content with having Ben and Jill continue to do personnel stuff. But for keeping union negotiations separate from this due to the fact that I wasn't part of the 49 contract. I have already started into the 49 contract and have already discussed with the attorney things that need to be moving forward into the ASME contract. So continuing on with negotiations in the union.
Okay, so you're essentially, at this point, you're good with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, correct? So that we kind of just hone back personnel into really just personnel matters.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
You're off, Ben's on, changing it back to personnel. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is good. 7 you would like to be adjusted. Sure.
Yes, I would like to continue to stay on that, into that as, like I stated,
How many union negotiation meetings have there been with the 49ers?
just the one, we have this next one started, and like I said, me, Jill, and Melissa negotiated the 49 contract. We can even put this as a temporary stipulation, if that's what you guys choose to do. Because if you're saying that I am essentially part of things going the way they are, the opportunity to change them things is how we bring them around back, which is something that with the last, what did I go to? Conference was ways to do that. So if that is the option, I mean, that is what I'm thinking, possibly, with you guys doing that. Because we need to figure out how to work together. And I think by just taking the factors out, it's not going to help the situation. So I'm open for any suggestions and asking for you guys' help, to move things forward and, get things where they need to be.
Melissa, did you want to say something?
While I was forming something in my head still, I wasn't I was still thinking, I mean, I guess, sitting, there's not a whole lot that I can add to it, considering I won't be here very long. But considering that I'm almost done with a master's degree in almost the same exact thing, I think the way that this is written, and I think also allowing other people a chance to get familiar with union contracts and be a part of that is not a bad idea.
I would absolutely love to have Ben. I mean, Ben, we asked you from the beginning to come in and join us, and get familiar with the contracts and do, so absolutely, But like I said, I don't think it's going to help. I mean, I don't know if that's the exact terms I would like to use, but, as a temporary basis, continue with me on the negotiations. Definitely bring it back if you guys see a problem, but,
Can I say something? It was actually pointed out in here that there is already a problem. I mean, just reading through this when we got it, the comments that have been made in the negotiations could potentially cause some liability for the city, because we're not bargaining in good faith. So I think that's another reason why we should let some other members take it over, see how it goes. I mean, there'll be more union negotiations later this year.
right, and I'm not disputing that, like I said,
I mean, I won't be here very long, but I would hate to see the city get sued for something that's.
right, and I'm not disputing that either. But like I said, if this would have, if these concerns would have been brought up before, instead of, in a personnel committee meeting, maybe, it would have been, because how are we asking the council to help move forward, and maybe it'd be a teaching process, I'm all for that. So, I mean, you guys don't mind? I'm gonna take on it, so.
After talking with Dale, I mean, this wouldn't have come forward if I wasn't, on board with both of these. I mean, I'm excited would be excited to jump into the union negotiations, coming from manufacturing, seeing things, multiple different corporations, seeing how things are run, and different things like that. I mean, I would be happy to see if there's, input that I can give with the negotiations, and, to help, and be someone that they can come to if they have, hey, I've got something, would you come with me so I can go talk to this person? I do that daily at work. I mean, I've got roughly 14 people that I co-manage, and and it's constantly going up to them, hey, I see you've got something going on here. What's getting you? Because I mean, when I walk around my shop, I mean, the guys will come up and talk to me, and they know that if I'm not in a super chipper mood with them, they know that there's a reason that we're going to start talking about here as to what's going on, and so I mean, I have great rapport with the 14 plus people that I'm basically work on managing, so I mean, the people that I work with would tell you that I'm upbeat and fun to be around and things like that. So I mean, I try and make the workplace a happy place to come to, and be a fun atmosphere, and that's something that I think I can help bring to this.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, and that's, like I said, that's why I went to this last conference, was to help myself and all of us kind of figure out how to work better together and be more cohesive. So.
Actually and truly, you guys ought to be ashamed of yourselves for going behind somebody's back. That's not the way you really do things.
Well, this really wasn't the appropriate venue either.
What was that?
And this wasn't the appropriate venue for it. When Wendy was attacked, y'all stopped it and didn't let her get attacked out here. It wasn't fair to her. This should have been done in private. This really was not the proper place for this.
Why don't you bring up Wendy F-bomb and council members?
No, we're not doing that.
No, Mayor, I would like you to take control of the meeting. The open forum was earlier.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, something's got to be said.
But,
So just to clarify, there was discussion about making all of these changes behind the scenes.
I never was aware of it.
Correct. Because Because the last time we tried to make these changes behind the scenes, we were accused of being secretive and not letting all council know. So here I try to do the right thing and make sure that all council is aware and all council has input, and I can't communicate with you guys because that would be an open meeting violation. So I bring it to an open meeting, and now I'm getting bashed because it wasn't done behind the scenes. You can't have it both ways. Either we can do these things behind the scenes and that's going to be okay, or these discussions are going to take place in an open forum.
Okay.
Whether they're hard, whether they're somebody's discussing my inequalities, because we've all got them, I understand. But we cannot have it both ways. I mean, literally last month, Lloyd, there was just...
in a personnel meeting?
No.
We haven't had a personnel meeting since.
We don't have a personnel committee.
I thought
We
you
do.
just said.
No, this would give us a personnel committee. Right now, we do not have a personnel committee.
We have a management coordinating team.
Right, which is
That's all we
to
have.
discuss the management and what's going on with the management stuff. We technically do not have a personnel committee right now.
That's only, and I think this was brought forward as a resolution, and that's something that we all have to vote on. It's not something that just the personnel committee can, or the management coordinating committee, or whatever, can decide on. It's something that we all have to vote on. So we can't do it behind the scenes. We can't. Any other discussion?
So I get where Michelle was coming from in potentially wanting to stay on 49ers. I know she's done work on it already. I mean, what's our thoughts on keeping her on the 49er contract, just because she does have a, she's invested in it. She's already done a lot of research on it. We've all received, the three of us, I guess, have received emails over the past few days regarding it. So then it would essentially be Ben, Michelle, and I on the 49er contract, and I guess at this point, keep the AFSCME open as far as who specifically is in.
And if you guys tend to see a problem, you can always bring it back and choose to do what you need to do. But, that's fine. But like I said, I think we need to somehow work together. And I will take it upon myself to apologize to staff for how would I say, in that situation, maybe not stepping forward and saying, with that certain individual and letting it continue. But it just keeps email after email from this resident. So I do apologize for that. So, that's up to you. How do you want to go forward?
How do you feel about keeping her on for the 49ers? So essentially 7 could read the personnel committee with the addition of Michelle Otto is hereby vested with the responsibility. Right?
Well, I mean, I get where you're going with it, but I think we already have the 3 that are the union negotiators now, so it would be Jill, Michelle, and Lloyd. So why would we not keep Lloyd on there since he's already a part of it?
Yeah.
In addition to Ben and Jill. So Ben and Jill would be the personnel committee with the addition of Lloyd because he's already a part of this committee too. I mean, so now you're saying no, he can't be a part of it.
Well, he's not.
No, but I'm just saying, I'm just saying he's a part of it.
Point of clarification for what Melissa you just said. I want to make sure I understand it, so I got it right.
So our current union negotiation committee is Michelle, Jill, and Lloyd.
Right.
So we would essentially, if we were to pass this, it would be Ben and Jill. So
Correct.
since we have 3, if they wanted to stay at 3,
I mean, Lloyd has already been a part of it as well. Why would we not want to keep him if he wants to be?
Would it be easier if we just deleted 7 and then we revisit that in the future? Pardon, you, council, revisit it in the future.
So then moving forward on the 20th is our next meeting. Negotiations. Where would we go with that?
Right, I will say, from a negotiating standpoint, you're gonna wanna have those people, so you don't wanna keep switching out people because of this down the road.
Right.
You wanna make sure that the parties negotiating are in place.
Okay, so let's delete some of what you were suggesting.
Let's leave it with us 3 then for the 49ers. You guys can settle that.
And you guys can be your personnel committee.
Okay.
And then Jill, since you are still a part of this, if you see a problem?
I have no problem discussing things with you, but I don't want to be accused of being secretive in the future. So we're clear. It's going both ways.
But I mean, if, like you said, if there is a problem, you know, in the negotiations or whichever, we'll address it.
So 7's going to be deleted. We'll keep the current union negotiators, 3 of us, with 49ers. And AFSCME will be determined before we start those negotiations. Yeah?
If we're going to delete 7, then I would respectfully recommend we delete the last whereas as being inconsistent. And I think in the spirit of the discussion we've had, I would give some serious consideration for purposes of memorializing this resolution to maybe deleting the 7th whereas.
No, because it's not.
I know it's a little bit about unringing a bell, but I mean, I think probably in the spirit of cooperation, at least we can, in memorializing, maybe take that out. We all know it was in there, but I mean, for records, for the future. Again, just a suggestion. Whereas a statement made by Mayor Otto, that's the whereas.
Under C2, the first line should be taken out of there because neither does the mayor or any council member do any determination. It's the council as a body that determines.
You're reading the information memo.
Yeah, that's what
That's
the
information.
resolution.
Yeah, but I mean, even though it's still there.
Well, that's an attachment to the resolution, yes. But we
Because
can't delete that.
None of us up here can fire or hire anybody. It's a council.
But that document is coming directly from the league.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Michelle? Lloyd?
No.
I have none.
No, sorry. We need a motion.
I know that's your responsibility. It's your
That's yours.
responsibility. Well, it's your responsibility to say we need a motion.
We need a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept resolution 2018-08
With,
as amended, removing the 1, 2, 3 items.
And which 3 items?
7th whereas, the last whereas, and number 7.
Well, I will second that. Yeah, I got that one. Is there a second? I seconded. Oh, you did, sorry. All right. Ben,
Aye.
Jill. Hi. Melissa. Hi. Lloyd.
No.
Is there discussion? Any other discussion? No? Okay. I will, so we are currently keeping Jill and Ben as personnel.
And it's back to personnel.
And it's back to personnel
To discuss personnel.
personnel issues, as personnel issues only, with Union 49 negotiations being Lloyd, myself, and Jill. Okay. All right, planning and zoning. We're good, Mark?
Yes.
You're so quiet down there. No old business, no new business.
Well, technically, if I could just interject, we are close to having the preserve ready for the council, and I anticipate that since we've got, looks like a boatload of special meetings coming up, that at one of those, you might want to just tuck in approval. I can't imagine, Mark, that would take more than 10 minutes discussion.
Yeah, I think that'd be.
Yeah, so, because we want Kent to get going on that, and there's, so, yeah, I think we're gonna have it done prior to the 12th of March, so look for that.
Okay. Upcoming meetings, February 21st, planning and zoning at 7 o'clock. February 26th, town hall meeting, 7 o'clock at community center, same as planning and zoning, March 5th, park and rec, 5:30, city hall. Acknowledgements. Yeah, let's start. All right, I would like to acknowledge Melissa for her a little over 3 years of council member, and wish her luck in moving on and all of her endeavors. Sean as well, I am going to acknowledge Sean because he did give us 10 years of service. He put in a lot of time here. He helped us a ton on Park and Rec with our capital improvement plans, our parks and trails plans, all of that stuff. So I do want to acknowledge Sean for that. And Kevin did go through and acknowledge all of the firefighters. I think that's all I have. Anybody else?
I'd like to thank the whole fire department for everything that they do this last year. So, I've had a great opportunity to see what they go through for their trainings. And I just want to personally thank all of them for what they do for our community. It is truly a godsend that we have them.
And I want to acknowledge everybody that showed up today. Good crowd.
Thank you, Lloyd.
I had acknowledgements for the Park and Rec Committee for the successful skate day that was had. The turnout I heard was amazing. I was sick with the flu, so I didn't go. And then the Montrose Days Committee for the Bags and Bingo event that was had as well with a really good turnout.
I just wanted to thank everybody that I've worked with over the last little over 3 years, and it was not an easy decision to leave, but I'll still be here. I'll be around a lot, so.
Anybody else?
I don't know if I can, do I get her acknowledged? Like Lloyd, I want to acknowledge the crowd. It's really, only through actually showing up at a meeting you can see what goes on, and hopefully you'll find out that what actually goes on is a lot different than what you hear on the street. I want to also acknowledge this council for handling a very difficult situation with Grace, especially you, Mayor. It's this tough stuff, and I'm sure you didn't want to hear it, but I think everyone did an excellent job, and I don't know if we do applause, but small applause for you guys.
Anybody else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I will make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.